Welcome to Exploration Arcanum. My name is Jason, and in this episode, I'm joined by Lisa Derrick, an artist, occultist, Thelemite, and witch from Los Angeles, California. Lisa opens up about her path into the world of occultism and magic, sharing the early influences that shaped her journey. We also dive into how magic intersects with psychology, the role rituals play in art, and her participation in Richard Metzger's The Magick Show documentary series. If you enjoy this episode, please like and subscribe for more esoteric conversations. Thank you.
Casting circles beneath the midnight sky. Incantations beneath the shadow.
All right, Lisa Derrick, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I've been covering the Magick Show, Richard Metzger's Magick Show, and I know that you're involved, and I would like to speak to you about that and how you became involved in that. But before we do that, I'd like to get a little bit of your background. How did you first get involved with the occult?
Well, I'm a native Angelino, and growing up in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of woo-woo around, but we didn't call it woo-woo then. Well, I was like 3 when my mom took me to an astrologer. She had Gung Hei Fat Choi fortune cards, and I could read when I was 3, so they just started giving me fairy tale books, and they wanted to keep me my family wanted to keep me interested and open-minded. So when I showed an interest in occultism, when I was in 6th grade, I had a really decent pop culture occult library for 1972. But that's where I read about Aleister Crowley and the Venus of Willendorf and a variety of other things. And magic was really important to me. It's just because I believed that this stuff existed and it was lost to the time, or people just didn't talk about it anymore. Once I went to Berkeley, I was lucky enough to meet someone who was studying with the OTO. And he gave me my first deck of Thoth cards. I had other tarot cards before then. And I spent a little time with the OTO then. It didn't really jive, but the people who were there were goofing around, and they decided to do a mock 3rd degree initiation, AA initiation on me. That's maybe, I did speak to an official in the OTO later on, and I am a dues-paying member of the Grand Lodge, just so everyone knows. And I've been initiated in several occult, blah, 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 blah. And he said, oh, they were just joking around. It didn't mean anything. And maybe it doesn't. I don't know. They know more than me. They have way more degrees. But in the course of loving magic and doing magic, so many things in my life came, evolved. I worked in one of the most renowned occult bookstores in Los Angeles at the time, the Phoenix Bookstore in Santa Monica. And the owner's name was Michael Goth, so you could literally go, oh my God! And he had done the Gurdjieff work. He told me a lot about Jack Parsons. I met Helen Parsons Smith and Robert Anton Wilson and Carlos Castaneda, and I was promoting bands, and then I started working for labels. And stuff just kept happening for me. And I believe it's because I do magic, and I do kind of a West Coast combo platter of semi-planetary magic, Santeria. I work with Santa Muerte because I believe that since we are in the city of angels and she's the queen of angels, what are angels but dead people? And dreams come here to die. And eventually I ended up working under Vicki Adams, who's also in Magick Show, who owns Pan's Apotheca. And I was able to do, from 2016 through 2016 until shutdown, large-scale public rituals, which included art openings and rituals that were rituals in public. Like one was 1,500 people. And, yeah.
You said
And
1,500? Wow.
Yeah, it was at a small festival. It was at a small goth festival.
Yeah.
And I worked with an excellent sorcerer named Cast Excelsior, who I would love to turn you on. Oh my gosh, he is amazeballs. I've studied hoodoo, ceremonial magic. You know, my family is generationally from the late 1700s on, from the South on my mom's side, and I had great uncles named Hiram and Jubal. So I have to acknowledge my colonial place in magic, as and the influences of 400 years or so on American soil. So within that, I do a lot of chthonic graveyard work. I'm very devoted to to Artemis of Ephesus, and I made a pilgrimage to Ephesus, and Santa Muerte, and I do magic like every single day, and that it's called practicing for a reason. Like you don't want to think about it when they say medicine, that you're practicing that. I get it, but with magic, yeah, you do it, and then like lifting weights or yoga or art or anything else. The more you do it, the stronger you grow. You can give yourself challenges, and there's certain magics I'm just not that good at. I don't have the memory or the vibe with them. I'm not really a Solomonic magician, and also I don't really care for and I understand it was the only language available at the time, but do we need to still carry it through Christianization of metaphysical concepts or occult concepts?
Right. Now it's funny that you bring up, because I'm a native Los Angelino as well, and so you're talking about Jack Parsons and Helen Parsons. You're basically speaking my language, because it's odd to me that I think everyone in LA who's been here for a number of years has heard the name Jack Parsons if you're in occult spaces, because mostly because of his work in rocket science, but also he heavily influenced, in my opinion, what Americans think of as ceremonial magic.
Yes, and superheroes.
Right. But because like a lot of people say that Iron Man is based on Jack Parsons. Have you ever heard that one?
Yeah, in a way, in a little bit of a way. Learning about Jack Parsons in the mid 80s was really stunning. And then later on, there was a magazine called Mean, and I wrote about Parsons for them, and I also wrote about Anton LaFay. My father was a test astronaut, so I saw a man walk on the moon, and I will email you a collage I made of Jack Parsons, and it's got 11 Apollo 11s going around his head like an icon. And the number 11 is Babylon. And when did we walk on the moon? Apollo 11? Apollo 11.
Oh, wow. When you started practicing, though, like what did you start with? Did you start with ceremonial magic?
Oh gosh, no. I started practicing magic when I was single digit age. I remember doing one spell that I read about in the Peter Popper Book of Spells. And if I'd known we'd be on camera, I'd have a whole stack of like, look at this, because I found a used copy and I had to have it. And said that and it was old folklore stuff. It was like a $3.95 book from the drugstore. And sometimes my mom would get me the little 25-cent pocket fortune telling or how to read tarot card books at the checkout stand. You know, it made her happy. One was pink and it had a Siamese cat and a pink candle on it. It was witches love spells. So the first spell I remember doing though was taking a wet towel and hitting it against a rock to make it rain. Well, it was Southern California in the summer. It didn't work. Oh no, wait. Previously to that, I went to briefly an all-girls school in New York called Bryn Mawr. I was 7. And as we were walking to the park, the girls began chanting, "Don't step on a crack or you'll break your mother's back." And I was like, does that even work? So I just would step on cracks. And when I was 9, sometime around the time with the wet towel hitting it with a rock, my mom sneezed very badly, shattered her several discs in her spine, was in traction and needed spinal surgery. But did that stop me from doing magic? No. I was reading Ouija. I was doing Ouija boards with my friends in junior high. Like, it just didn't really stop. It's like, you know, some people have to play basketball. Some people have to collect stamps. It's just what I do, and it's really pretty much the only thing I'm good at.
Well,
and even that's a little. Well, a magician is somebody who gets it right 51% of the time.
I like,
you know, and I used to joke before he ran in before 2015 actually, that the Mango Mussolini, maybe I shouldn't get too political, that former President Trump, but he was just known as Donald Trump, and I go, look at how many bankruptcies he's had, look at how many disasters he's had, but 51% of the time, he pulls his chestnuts out of the fire. He's doing magic whether he knows it or not. Whether that's, people do magic in different ways. And I do think that people have done magic for and against him. If you look at I'm not going to mention the meme, but it's not Kermit online. It's, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I'm superstitious, but those who know, and those who don't.
Right.
But that's what they're trying to do. And I feel on a certain level, this comes out of the concepts of mind magic, mind wars rather, which was Michael Aquino taking bits and pieces and a whole bunch more and then running it through contemporary military language utilization framework. And it's from the military and Henry Ford that we get a lot of our ideas of standardization, data points, achieving every day increasing a person's goals that they must accomplish.
Right.
Amazon drivers.
Right.
Okay.
But now because I recently interviewed Michael M. Hughes, who wrote the binding spell for the person you just mentioned in 2017. And it went viral. It took off on the internet. Celebrities were doing it. All these other people were doing it. But do you think magic like that can it have an effect? Like, because a lot of magical results are coincidences. You know, it's not
of course, but yes, there are coincidences, but magic finds the path of least resistance.
Right.
So, of course it's a coincidence. You know, I mean, much of life is a coincidence. Correlation is not causation, but life is not a reproducible experiment. If I do a spell and it produces the desired results, then theoretically the larger parts, I mean, you can get down into micro grinding your spells to where you can't do it on a Thursday because it's Thor, so it's masculine, and you can get so utterly refined that you become paralyzed. And sometimes it's just fun to go, damn, you're a jerk, and see what happens. One of my favorite witch friends calls magic spicy psychology. I think of it as more spooky psychology because I'm a little spooky. But some days I wake up and I am just cranky about something, and I will vanish. I'll light some candles. I'll say my piece. Do I feel better? Yes. If something happens in accordance with my will, I'll take that as a win. Sure, no problem.
Right. Now, you mentioned the OTO. So are you do you still practice Thelema?
I consider myself a Thelemite.
Okay.
I'm a dues-paying member to the Grand Lodge. I have the number 93 tattooed on me. The Ron Athey, oh my gosh, what an amazing artist, Ron Athey. He looked at this and said, what, 6 pounds? Is that your price, baby? I'm like, oh, but yeah, I am a Thelemite, and the art that I do, with the exception of, the majority of the art that I do is influenced by Thelema, minus the Christian theology. Eschatology is scatology, and once everyone starts getting into that angle, no matter what religion you're in, I'm out of there. Do I feel OTO's an eschatological religion? No, but I just don't like using Christian languaging if I can avoid it. Though we're kind of stuck with it.
Yeah. So how has Thelema and magic influenced your art and vice versa?
Oh, wow. Because the word of the book of the law is very visual and beautiful and colorful, and and Crowley lived his life as a Thelemite. Now, granted, he did have the privilege of a wealth, which helps. It's one can do. It's really hard to be a broke college student and go traipsing all over the world and, study in Mexico and, hang out with Alan Bennett. And I mean, come on. Wealth is helpful in doing what thou wilt. Was he entirely successful? Well, he did open up several belief systems for the Western world. Thelema and its related Masonic and magical brotherhoods, because there is a strong Masonic link through there. And the idea of liberty, equality, and freedom, the individual working with the collective, is the ideal of a democratic republic, I think. But love is the law, and I'm sorry, ladies, who does not love the first chapter of Book of the Law? We love that. The second's a little challenging, and then the third is a straight punch in the gonads. I have, right now on my table, I have 2 different Thelemic decks. And I also, for me, the way Crowley redesigned the tarot deck and put it in that Ouroboros and rectified Leo and Libra, just really, I couldn't read with pre-Crowley decks. I would get jammed up. And then I was given a deck, and it made total sense. Okay, and while we're talking, I will eventually find my favorite tarot joke that's in here. So I really enjoy, I do a lot of collage work, and one of the first Thelemic pieces I did was for Brit Week at GABA Gallery on Temple, and I decided to do, because I was a little annoyed with the British, a couple things that would be really disruptive. And one of them was a large piece with Aleister Crowley in the center and 93 people influenced by him, including Ian Fleming, Christopher Lee, and so I make a variety of those. They're in 2 separate collections belonging to Thelemites. And then I did a Jack Parsons piece. I've done Lust, and the piece that I'm working on for El Valario in October at Plaza de la Raza is about Santa Muerte being the Queen of Los Angeles. I'm very excited about it. It came to me as I was prepping for this, so thank you. I owe you one.
If you ever get a chance, because my favorite comic book character is John Constantine, who is a magician. And
oh, right.
Yeah, so one of his movies was called City of Demons, where he comes to LA and he meets the Queen of Angels, like the goddess of Los Angeles. And
oh my gosh, I had no idea because I don't really watch. I'll watch like John Wick and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'll link it to you. It's really good.
Maybe I watched the first one. I don't know.
Well, what I liked about it was that it gave the city an essence, because LA does have an essence, and different parts of the city has an essence. Like we might call it a vibe. So you go to East LA, there's a vibe. You go to South Central, there's a vibe. Downtown, Hollywood, there's a different vibe.
The hills, the beach, wherever. It's hundreds of neighborhoods in search of a reality, and right.
Tell me a little bit about how you got involved with the Magick Show, and what's your segment about?
I don't remember what my segment was. Whatever Richard asked me, I responded. That's one of the beauties of doing magic, which is what Richard was doing with Magick Show. I believe it is an ongoing, living hyper sigil to transform those who wish to be so transformed.
Right. He has quite a few chaos magicians in there, and they're
I think that's what I do, but so Richard, I guess, had heard about me from Pleasant and Damon and the amazing Lenora Claire, who is a queen amongst art gallery owners. Like when I read about her having her own gallery, I thought, oh my gosh, I want to do that. And then years later I did. So she's an inspiration to me in that, and also in her work to protect people who are being stalked. And she is on the LA District Attorney's Victim Advocacy Board. If I may have gotten that wrong, but she's works with the LA District Attorney. She has spoken in front of the Department of Justice, and she's really, really freaking inspirational. So, Richard messaged me, then we talked on the phone, then he invited me out for dinner with some of the gnarliest magicians who I had heard of. And that was really fun. It's Ethiopian food, which I love. So that was really cool and groovy. And I got to meet, they're in the documentary. And it was super fun. And then we just started hanging out, and he asked me if I knew any other people, and I sort of, there's a lot of people who do magic. There's a lot of people who do witchcraft, and I feel that representation is important, especially in the United States, because we are such a beautifully alchemicized population in an ideal world. Well, in magic, it's been like magic and goth clubs are two places I found that people are pretty la 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 la, because you can do the work or whatever. You can you can dance if you want to. We can leave this world behind. So wait, where was I? I finally got lost, but it took me 30 minutes in.
That's a good question. What was your favorite golf club? Because when I was going, it was the Fang Club in Hollywood. What about you?
Okay, I enjoyed Scream a little bit. Now, I don't consider Power Tools goth, but I always dressed goth. Remember when Batcave first opened first night at Raji's upstairs. Lauren Hutton freaking showed up. And my friend, somebody gave us a table. Like, this was before there were table service, but like I walked in with one of my girlfriends and they were like, here, sit here. I went to Cloak and Dagger a lot. I loved Cloak and Dagger. I did large scale public rituals there. I was honored enough to work with a writer and the director of a writer who wrote about the movie Sculpt and the director of the movie Sculpt to create a night around Sculpt outside of Cloak and Dagger, but in conjunction with them.
Right.
And I also did public rituals there. I did the festival that I did a ritual for was Cloak and Dagger. I've also done public rituals at Bell Book and Candle and for clients. So just as an FYI.
You also ran art galleries in Los Angeles too, right? You had one in Chinatown?
Yes, I took a course in curating from Matt Gleason, who owned Coagula Curatorial. And then I pitched a show to him called Two Johns and a Whore, which featured John Roker, the filmmaker and artist, and John Fleck, the performance artist, and the whore was just representations of art. But, those who knew. And it was a lot of fun. It got a lot of coverage. And somehow I ended up curating 14 shows in one calendar year. And it just started. Matt Gleason called me up and said, come down now. I went down. He goes, this space in Chinatown is available. It was all black on the outside, and the address matched my membership card number for Cloak and Dagger.
Wow.
Previously, I had been praying to Santa Muerte to help me. And she appeared in front of me and said, if you give me a show, I'll give you an art gallery. So I gave her a show, which ran from October 2019 until I closed the gallery just days ahead of Eric Garcetti closing the gallery. And that was a beautiful show. And all of my shows, the majority of my shows had occult themes. There were a couple that were artists I just loved who I vibed with. And that's what and we always had some sort of metaphysical psycho-babble connection.
How has the LA art scene and magic scene by extension changed since you first got started? Have you noticed any differences between then and now?
Well, I started in the LA magic scene when the Sorcerer's Shop on Santa Monica was still open, and we'd go in wearing our school uniforms. So yeah, the magic scene has changed. Well, people are a lot more open about magic. They recognize the influence of magic in BDSM, and the influence of BDSM in magic. There is a crossover for some people when it comes to doing certain ritual acts. We'll just leave it at that. I feel there are more practitioners. I feel there's people who try it or like whatever. Art-wise, we had the influx of, art movement-wise, we've had the influx of street art and its gradual decline. There are some big names that will always be big names. There's not a lot of money for art right now, especially in the, under 2,000 market. I think people would rather buy other stuff, or they've run out of freaking wall space or they're renting.
Well, what do you think of the different art styles? Because I cover technology mostly, and a lot of people are using AI to create art. today. What's your opinion on that? Do you think that takes away from the creativity when you're using technology to do art?
There are people who are amazing artists who have visions in their head, but are stuck in being very verbal people. And certainly I was for a long time. And for them, AI is amazing. There are artists who cannot accomplish with the tools necessary. Like, there's this amazing artist I love, April Bay. And she was using fabric and stitching and overprinting. And now she can create these backgrounds of her fantasy world, Atlantia, using AI. Matt Gleason, who ran Coagula, has created beautiful pieces with AI because of his languaging skills. In the beginning, there was the word, okay, Christian imaging, but whatever. We still talk about inspiration is to breathe in. So at the same time that I can say, I can give a string of highly detailed, specific designs and then be able to clearly manipulate that into a work of art, and I'm probably killing, like, my carbon credits, or like, there's the environmental concern, which we'll just shunt to the side, which pains me so much. And then there's creating art of things that I don't really, I'll say Taylor Swift, cats, dogs, and we'll leave it at that. There's...
I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about so you would have a show, and then you would do a live ritual at the show. But have you ever experienced a piece of art or a presentation that you've attended that felt like a ritual to you, that felt like magic?
A lot of times at concerts, more than anything else. I would say I felt that very much with U2. Bono is a magician, pure and simple. He's really amazing. I regret never seeing Bowie, so I can't speak on that. But yes, concerts are definitely a ritualized experience, especially when we set the rhythm to the tempo to our own heartbeat.
Yeah.
Actual works of art, yes. Damien Eccles' sigils were designed specifically to be magical works of art. Are there encoded pieces? Sure. If you believe something, whether it's political, religious, philosophical, you are going to put that in your artwork. You know it's there as a hypersigil for you. And if people connect with it or react to it, it's increasing that. Whether or not it's your intention, oh, pretty puppies, and it causes someone, instead of, feeling all happy and joyous, to, I don't know, do something that isn't happy puppies. Well, was that your intention? No. Did it? It's too confusing when you start getting into the philosophy of perceiving, perceptor, creator, creative, viewer, audience, projected audience, and maybe that was the encoded message in the happy puppies. We don't know. But any act with intention is a magical act. Any creative act with intention is a greater magical act. Because it's like, there's acts we have to do every day. We have to cook, we have to clean, we have to brush our teeth and shower. We do not have to be creative. That is our will. Some force within us emerging from the chthonic wherever's inside of us and being hit by planetary energy from the cosmos. And we can sit and think about, oh yeah, man, I'm gonna paint this thing it's going to be freaking amazing. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. Yakety, 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 yak. Action is necessary. Word without action is bad magic. I mean, it's magic that's sloppy. You can only talk yourself so far unless you can deliver the goods. And that means suiting up, showing up, and doing the work. You may not think it's your best work, but not everybody knows your best work. Only you do. Well, that's between you and whatever you work with.
Right.
But the people around you, if they think it's good, that's, you know you can do better the next time, or how to fix this the next time. I worked for oh my God. I had an idea for a piece for last year's El Valario. And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and finally I did it, and it had turned into something completely different, utilizing things I'd never done before. And one of my collectors bought it from me because he loved it so much. So, I don't paint that much. I'm working on it a bit, but I try to challenge myself. So each time an artist challenges themselves, they are succeeding. You never fail, you learn. And for the most part, your audience isn't going to know you suck anyway. Do you notice when a musician plays like one string off? Nah, you're having a good time.
Yeah. One thing that we talked about beforehand that I was hoping you could talk to us about, you received a notice from the city to stop casting spells on somebody. Is that true or something?
No, it was not from the city. It's a court order.
Okay, you got a court order to stop casting spells.
I got a court from Los Angeles Superior Tenant Court. Okay, I had a house that had a lean-to shed that had been built in the 50s by the previous owners. And it was glass, and it had north-facing light, and we called it the dessert hut or the stoner hut. We put like the bar and desserts in there for parties, or like if it was pleasant out, we'd go outside and watch the birds from in, it was nice. Well, a guy I had known in the 90s, really brilliant, creative dude, asked if he could rent it as an art studio so his boyfriend wouldn't get upset about the mess. Seemed reasonable to me until he moved the fuck in. And then he stopped paying rent, and then he tried to pull you rented me an uninhabitable space grift so that I would relocate him under renter's rights for $20,000. Mother taught me not to do that. So, with the help of a friend, well, several friends, one of whom was usually on the side of tenants who were being jacked around by landlords and needed the relocation money, and another friend who came in and coached me, I filed an eviction against him. But prior to doing that, I got some beeswax and I did a spell, and with wax and candles and, what spooky spicy psychology does. So the day of the hearing arrives, and I'm in court with my lawyer. 123 Evict, Dennis Block. They're great. Highly recommend. Not sponsored. So I was in court with my lawyer, and we're laying down things like he can only be on the property from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. He can only do this. And all of a sudden, and his pants are hanging down to his waist, and he's just being disrespectful. He was wearing a hat in court. He had shown up at my house the night before begging me to stop it. The day of court, he called me for the address. I'm like, wow, I made a judgment call here that was not good. So all of a sudden, he blurts out, "No witchcraft." And the judge and the bailiff both like, what? And he goes, she can't practice witchcraft on me. And I said, Your Honor, that is prior restraint, and it's denying me my right to practice my religion under the First Amendment. And the judge leaned forward and said, Ma'am, I agree with you, but this is tenant court. You're the first case of the day, and there's a lot of people waiting. So what do you want to do? And I said, okay, if I can't practice witchcraft against him, he can't practice witchcraft against me. And the judge and the bailiff, like it was eye roll, eye roll, eye roll. Well, I had several friends in court. Luckily, I had witnesses. So the judge said, okay, your lawyer needs to write it in. And judge and bailiff talked about their vacations or whatever, and it was entered into court order, and it wasn't sealed. Most evictions are sealed, but my lawyer disliked, but the defendant has to ask for it, and my lawyer was not going to tell him that because my lawyer was just like, you scumbag. I mean, I showed up with people who were witnesses. Yeah, anyway, so I am ordered to not practice witchcraft against him forever. Well, prayer is a form of witchcraft. So when I learned he was homeless living on the streets of Palm Springs, I couldn't pray for him or light a candle. And then someone messaged me and sent me a clipping from a newspaper. He had been killed in a head-on crash with a Peterbilt truck.
Wow. Wow.
That's a coincidence.
Wow.
It took 18 months. Magic isn't instant. Do I think I'm responsible? No. He was probably going to have a bad end anyway. But that's why on the Magick Show thing, it specifically says, I don't do curses. Like, no. I do not slay for pay so far.
Slay.
Like Bree says, how do you know your spell works? He's dead! That Bree is so, like, to be in a documentary with Bree Luna, oh my gosh, I mean, I produced an award-winning documentary on Los Angeles art. It's called, Dark Progressivism, a documentary about Los Angeles art. But to, like, Bree Luna, oh my gosh. Rodney Orpheus, oh my gosh. I mean, these are heavy hitter superstars, and we just, like, Richard asked us questions about how we do magic and what magic is, and yeah. And a lot of my early, Jack Parsons and Cameron were, oh wait, I have a quote from Cameron, we'll paraphrase. Into the night of nights we go forth as light. Nice. And that's a paraphrase from Wormwood Star. Into the blazing vault of nights we go forth as light.
Nice. Very cool. I have her biography. It's one of my favorite books, the biography of Cameron. I really wish they would make some type of movie, biopic or something about her, because she was, not only was she a magician, she was a phenomenal artist. And she had like...
Yes, her artwork's exquisite.
And she wasn't from LA, but she was very LA. You know, like you could... She captured the vibe, especially in the... Considering, what was this, the 1940s, 1950s?
Late 40s and 50s. Oh my gosh, their lifestyle. How, like, zany and fabulous. Oh my gosh. I was lucky enough to have been the consultant for Pasadena Babylon, which was presented at the Jet Propulsion Library.
Really?
Oh no, at Caltech. I lied. At Caltech. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I was lucky enough to be the consultant for Pasadena Babylon, a live stage production at Caltech. They have drama for students there, and this was a musical. I knew the director-producer, and he called me and asked if I would loan them tarot cards to help them understand stuff and talk to him a bit about the background. So wow, another dream come true because of magic.
Nice. I pulled it up. It was February 19th to the 27th in 2010, called Pasadena, Babylon at Caltech. And I'll link it in the description for everyone to see. That's
I know,
really
it's
cool.
kind of wacky. Oh, and my first public ritual was at the Lhasa Club, which was in Hollywood, right off of Santa Monica Boulevard on Hudson. It was part of the Los Angeles Surrealist Alliance night. The guy running it was a magician. We had met because a mutual friend had noticed his tetragrammaton and invited him to a barbecue. I mean, that's how we had to do it back in the olden days. And I still meet people that way. Like I vibe them a little bit or I'll drop a phrase to see what happens, you know?
Love is the law.
So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, no, I walked up to a guy recently at an event and he was wearing a chaos star with a garnet in it. And I looked at him and I'm like, Red Hot Chili Peppers or chaos? And he goes, whoa. And he goes, how'd you spot that? And I said, well, back in 93. And he was like, damn. And now we're friends. You know, because if you know the talkie, the city speak,
Yeah.
you can suss people out, and that's important.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to do rituals with everybody, you know. Some people, it's not a jive. So wait, circling back, you had asked something. Oh, the Lhasa Club. So I think it was it was in the 80s, and I will send you the photo because it is safe for work. I did a ritual there was a member. So back in the 80s, the Lhasa Club was right off of Santa Monica. It was all ages, very experimental. And a friend of mine had a night there for his organization, the Los Angeles Surrealist Alliance. So I did, the Enochian Mass with 2 members of the OTO. And yeah, I was the priestess. And yes, I dropped top on stage. Someone has the negatives of those. I don't care if they show up online. I looked great. Yeah, so that was my first public ritual. I'd done other like witchcrafty things, including a voodoo doll in 6th grade for a friend of mine so Bobby Hoyt would fall in love with her. It didn't work, and her mom got really mad. I chopped a piece of hair but I did it from like underneath, and she called up my mom to yell, and my mom was like, your daughter's the one chasing boys in 6th grade. My mom did not mess around. One of my favorite phrases from her, she'd look at something and go, the things you see when you don't have a gun. What the hell, Mom? You can't say stuff like that. Like, seriously. Oh, my God. No. No, Mommy. No, you're crazy.
Mom was just
so I come back. Yeah.
I was just keeping it real.
Definitely. Definitely. So, can we like meet and hang out in real life? Do you live in Los Angeles still?
Well, I'm out east. Well, we'll talk about that after we stop the recording.
Okay, yeah, let's stop because I already gave out way too much.
Yeah.
But
actually, this
all
is
right.
this is great. For anyone who wanted to learn more about you and follow you online, where would they go?
They can go to my Instagram, LaLisa_23, or Lisa Derrick Fine Arts, but I'm not that busy on it. I have a Facebook. I am active on TikTok. But honestly, I don't remember what my name is on it.
Okay.
And I would have to, like, seriously, it's saved on my phone. I'm old. I'm 63 years old. Oh my gosh, it was so great to be the same age in the year I was born in. I was like, woo! That was a great year. That was a good year. That was a good one. 22 was awesome.
Casting circles beneath the midnight sky. Incantations make the shadows fly. Summoning secrets, embracing the darkness.